This is a video that you're probably going to have to strap in for. Yes, the thumbnail is very compelling. I'm going to explain reasons why, what I've replaced, and it is a full portfolio update with a lot of nuggets and gems and my plan for the future, my aims for the future, not to mention my portfolio ratio holdings, which is what I often do in my Patreon. The problem is you're going to see a lot of abuse in the comment section. I will publish them all. A lot of emotional people will be upset that I have talked a lot about Polkadot in the past, but ultimately they failed, in my opinion. I feel, and I will talk about it in more depth in a minute, that what their development cycle is, we're going to probably miss it in terms of time duration with 2.0, with the async backing, with Jam, for example, right? So for me, I bowed out. But we'll go through it in more detail. Let's get into it. As I've alluded to it, we're going to talk about my plan, my aims, my holdings, and also a bear market plan. So I wouldn't just go away. The reality is here, we're going to talk about this in real time. We're going to type it and do all kinds of wonderful stuff with it. And the most important thing that we need to know is wealth creation is important, that we're going to keep building the wealth and growing and find ways and means to do it. I found my ways and means. I'm very, very comfortable with that. And it's a return to the old school for me, which I feel a lot more comfortable with, and I'm happier to do so. But we'll get into that in more detail in a second when we talk through the plan. I'm going to go through each individual holdings as well, why I'm holding them, and there's a couple of odd ones in there that I've never mentioned before. But we've talked a lot about runes, we've talked about a lot about other assets in my previous video that I was looking at buying, and I have bought that one. And again, we've got to talk about the obvious. Altcoins, maximum pain. But ultimately, my personal opinion here, I know, not every altcoin, in my honest opinion, will fly in this cycle. Whether we go into a full-on altcoin cycle, whether it's a very much Bitcoin-led cycle, all that kind of stuff's important to know. And I think if stuff isn't good and they don't have the community behind them, keyword community, I think we're going to struggle. And I do think that in a general sense. And I think community is the biggest lifeblood of a lot of why certain things go up. And that's why I also feel that with Polkadot, it's lacking. And we'll go through that, right? So let's look at Polkadot. My biggest gripe with all of it is the treasury. You know this. Look at my tweets from a year ago. Was not happy. Even though I've talked about the technology, and I do think, and I've said this before, the technology in Polkadot, for me, could, keyword is could, with what they're releasing in the future, be brilliant. Be brilliant. It's all if, muts, babies, what if, shoulda, coulda, woulda, right? And that's in any investing. And I think for anyone that is learning to be an investor or want to be an investor, you've got to back your own horse. You've got to go for it and go, right, I want to buy that. I want to buy whatever stock, whatever asset, whatever crypto digital asset. I want to buy this. And the reason why you bought it was because of a belief that you think it'll do it. Like me in 2016, I thought Bitcoin would be a good investment for the long term. Turned out that was pretty good. It's changed my life significantly. Polkadot has changed my life significantly in terms of me buying early in 2020. I've made money on it. It did well off the crowd loans, and then it obviously has died a stinky death. Since then, things have changed, in my opinion, not for the better. Now, again, we talk about the treasury. Sounds great on paper. Get rewarded in Polkadot for contributing. And I have been rewarded by the treasury, and I do thank the people who voted yes for me. But it's everything else that is kind of a little bit stinky. Look at who and why the bad actors are still in there. Why certain repeat proposals are there getting and bleeding out the treasury, where top content creators like All in Crypto are getting rejected even though their content is brilliant and they've done an absolute massive service to Polkadot. Blows my mind how certain ones get in and certain ones don't, and I don't like that. And I know it's a voting system, but bloody hell, we've got to have a bit of common sense. The big common sense factor as well is this article from July, which really did ring the alarm bells, right? Polkadot's 250 million treasury spend would last 2 years. Now I know there's a lot of if, buts, maybes, and inflation rates are going to be a factor in this and other variables, but ultimately the spended amount of the treasury is absolutely horrific. It is horrific. And you cannot even justify why it has to be that much. And I know it's based off DOT, and obviously I know that if the price goes up, it's misleading in a way, but you've got to have a degree of control with this, and you have to look at the fact and think, well, in 2 years this might just dry up. That's a problem, and you've got to address that, and you've got to think, well, where is the money going? Outreach is a lot of it. Development, yeah, fair play. But when we look at this, the research is pretty low. Operations is pretty low. Talent, education, economy, right? But the outreach, why is that so high? That is the one big thing. And is that just going to influencers, the calls, all that kind of stuff? And that's a problem. They're not exactly making it go up in price, are they? For me, as I've alluded to it, community is the best thing you can have. And that's kind of the whole thing here, right? So I have sold my Polkadot. Yeah, I probably will potentially come back to it in the future. As I've alluded to it, Jam looks fantastic. 2.0 is gradually getting phased in. And obviously the other side of it as well is starting to slowly grow. But if that's going to take 2 years, which is more than likely going to be the ballpark figure, that's going to take us to 2026 at least. And would I want to be an investor till then, when the sentiment may be, realistically, in the overall grand scheme of things, low? Probably not, no. So that's my reasons why. So going to my other holdings, I am pretty heavy in the Bitcoin ecosystem. I am relearning about Bitcoin again. The passion's coming back. I am enjoying it. And I think throughout this video, you're going to learn a lot about that as well, in terms of what could happen. And there's a massive circle of life here potentially could be happening, where what if a lot of things then get developed on Bitcoin instead of Ethereum or Solana, and people use that chain? Ooh, that could be the curveball that people may want to look out for and keep an eye on. But my biggest holding so far in terms of altcoins is Stacks. It is a layer 2. It is a leading layer 2. There's a lot of things happening on Stacks as well. There's a lot of good stuff happening too with regards to the speed and the opportunity here, with what their chain is going to do. And this is all changing now with the Nakamoto upgrade. Now, it's not fully released yet. It's just kind of on testnet at the minute. For most part, it's not on exchanges neither. So if you ever buy Stacks and move it, it is slow, but it is getting faster. And with that speed, with that fluidity, it may well untap and unlock that $1 trillion Bitcoin economy into more developers using it. Remember, this is the chain that people all started and loved. They moved elsewhere because the fundamental opportunity of being able to do it wasn't there. Now it's kind of, as I say, it's gravitating back. It's like a helium balloon. It's just going back, right? When we talk about that could be huge. And let's talk about what other stuff's coming, right? Now, this is something that may well blow brains a little bit. OpCat is a Bitcoin proposal, right? So it's not fully going to be like, yeah, ticking the box, let's go. But this was actually disabled by Satoshi himself in 2010. Okay, I know, bear with me. But it is basically a reinstatement of smart contract functionality on the Bitcoin network. Now, there's obviously big situations around this. Blow of the network. The ecosystem may get harder to manage because of the blow of a smart contract. But when you think back and you think about the Lightning Network and layer 2s and all the kind of stuff around it, this may well be the thing that really makes Bitcoin as an ecosystem really get bigger. Now, in my previous video, I shared a graphic of the meme coins and other assets like runes, ordinals and stuff like that, and BRCs. It was 0.04% of the entire Bitcoin ecosystem. That's fucking tiny. That's like a piss drop. Now, when you think about that, with this as a potential opportunity, with the likes of Stacks and other layer 2s, and I'll talk about the other ecosystems in a bit, you may well find that more and more people will gravitate to Bitcoin-related assets. When you put the Bitcoin ecosystem on a map, it gets a little bit bigger. Now, if you are fully in depth in the bollocks of, say, Bitcoin ecosystem, you go on the Bitcoin Talk forum, if you mention the word ordinals, you'll probably get slapped around a little bit. It's just the way it is. Now, when we talk about layer 2s, there's a few on here. We talk about, obviously, the Lightning Network. We talk about Rootstock, Stacks as an example. Some of them do not have tokens, fair play. Some of them do. Some of them will in the future. But this is just a starting point of layer 2s on the world of Bitcoin. And we can talk about layer 3s. We've got ZK rules, we've got sidechains, we've got decentralized asset platforms, all this kind of stuff. You've got DeFi platforms as well. They are starting to get a little bit more out there. And some of them work very well. But no one has a clue about them. And when we talk about the world of ERC20s, and I mentioned this as well in a previous video, how the ICO boom of the ERC20s was amazing. What about if the exact same thing happens on Bitcoin because everyone's going to gravitate over to it? I think a lot of people will. I think a lot of people are fed up with Ethereum. I think a lot of people don't like the ugly culture of altcoins, and they may well go to a more fluid, decentralized, open source ecosystem where they are more and more happy to do it, because it's probably easier as well, let's be honest. In terms of my other Bitcoin related stuff, if you don't know this, I might as well mention it, but I do have Bitcoin miners. You can see how shit they're doing, kind of. Some of them are doing all right, some of them are not. Look at CleanSpark, for example. So I do have TerraWolf, I have Hut 8, I have Iris, I have the Wisdom blockchain ETF, I have CleanSpark and, or ClearSpark even, CleanSpark, get my words out, and Soluna Holdings. All of them, bit random at the minute, and some of them are doing well, some of them are not. As again, it is risk to reward. I fundamentally believe if Bitcoin does well, the miners will probably do well too. So my second biggest holding, and one that I have sold a little bit of towards the previous levels of resistance around March, April time, was NIA, and still is NIA. I still hold a bit of it, and I am looking to buy a little bit more and add on top of my bag. AI, huge, big narrative. The blockchain, the chain abstract of this is huge, and it is a monster of a chain with some fantastic partners, as you can probably see. I've always liked NIA. I was very, very fortunate to buy with the FTX kind of crash. Ultimately, a lot of the stuff around that point was really interesting, and the Satoshi levels were very low. And yeah, still holding it, very, very happy to hold it. And as I say, I do want to buy more. I would highly recommend, if you are looking into the world of AI and NVIDIA and stuff like that, NIA Protocol is kind of leading the way a little bit with that. And it is doing very well. It's like rank 16, 17 now, and I've been backing it for a while. I know a lot of you missed out on it, but ultimately, I'm still holding it from a very, very low point of view of cost, which I'm very, very happy with. Now, the next one and a new acquisition is ICP. I know people are like, what the hell? But the reality is, I kind of like what they're doing. I know there's high inflation, but there's a lot of good growth here that I like the look of in terms of risk reward, in terms of the chart, not to mention the fact that it's kind of never had a bull market before is kind of important. So it could be very interesting. When we're looking at the overall data and the stats and the blocks and the transactions and stuff like that, it's growing. It's growing quite nicely. And quite a lot of the percentages are pretty damn good in terms of stakings and stuff like that. And they're starting to now burn more, which is important with the cycles. Again, one element of why I wanted to buy this was the fact that they've got Chain Fusion and they've got Bitcoin on the ecosystem and multiple other good assets that you can use within the chain. So there's a lot of things happening that I do like the look of, and it'd be interesting to see where this goes as the chain gets used more. Hopefully, fingers crossed, a good old season will bring a lot of people to this for the first time, and we'll see where it goes. And again, it is a risk, but ultimately, the Satoshi value of this is very low, and I do have a small percentage. You'll see my percentages towards the end of the video. But yeah, I'm pretty damn happy with this one versus holding something that I've kind of don't really have much, usage in terms of Polkadot, in terms of where it could be going in the next 2 years, which this, I think, personally, is on a better trajectory short term. Now, the final thing you probably never heard of before is a platform called CyberDEX. It's a very, very small investment for myself, but I'm a trader, and you're going to look at my aims and my plan, and it's going to mention a lot about trading in it because I miss it. Where I first made most of my monies was through trading, would you believe? And I am going back into that. And this is a decentralized platform that is releasing a version 3 very, very soon, which will incorporate social logins. It will be fully decentralized and self-custody. And I don't want to say much else regarding that because that's very new. And when we think about trading, the big problem we have, especially in the UK, is regulation, and we cannot do futures because of the problem. This is decentralized. It is all through the Synthetics network. It's on multiple chains. And as I've said, you can do social logins and it's self-custody through number of wallets, right? That's huge. Whether it's an investment or not, I don't know, but I have invested in it. But I will effectively be just using it, realistically using it. There's potential for, deal flows and stuff like that, where potential launchpad products and stuff like that. Not to mention, when we talk about stuff like launchpads and fees and stuff, obviously an exchange and with the fee structure, the more users that use it, the more it's going to go up. We've seen that with BNB and other exchange assets, and we've got to think, well, when you think about traders and the availability for trading on a decentralized platform, it's not that good. This is really good, and you'll see that in version 3 when it comes out. So back to the start, where we got to talk about my plan. My plan is effectively to trade altcoins more. So the plan is to trade altcoins more. It is also to hold more BTC versus altcoins, and you'll see that in a second. And the final thing is to hopefully sell when total 3/BTC, wait for it, goes high. That's the plan. If that makes sense, good. If it doesn't make sense, well, watch more of my videos and make sure you hit the subscribe button. The aim, though, is to hopefully only hold 3 altcoins. And you kind of see where I'm going with this, right? Realistically. My other aim is to explore more runes and, most importantly, the Bitcoin ecosystem. You could probably tell with my ratios in a second why I've gone heavier in stacks, because I think in terms of value proposition of a lower market capitalization asset, it might do well as Bitcoin grows and more developers happen, all that kind of stuff tickles along, right? It may well make me more money. The aim as well, in terms of an aim or a plan, as I've said, is to only sell my altcoins into Satoshis. Sell altcoins into sats. Keep stacking the sats. That is the overall gain here, right? So if you think about that as a plan and an aim, that is the aim, that is the plan, right? In terms of holdings, now let's talk about it. Bitcoin is currently at 70% of my holdings right now. So that's probably in line with what most people are expecting right now in terms of my portfolio. Some people may be like, what the hell? But ultimately, the total 3/BTC is very low. The Bitcoin dominance is very high, so it's huge. The next one is stacks, and that is currently 12.8% of my portfolio, roughly. The next one is NIA, which is 6.6%. The next one after that is ICP, which again, 5.6%. And at current levels, in terms of my holdings of CyberDEX is 3.2% with 1.8% basically stables in a nutshell, right? That is kind of my holdings right now, okay? The big problem that you probably will be finding is, well, there's not much there, but I would rather back with BTC. Now, my BTC holdings can change. I could easily sell some of my BTC and put it into, say, NIA, ICP at the lows of the BTC pairs or as dominance starts to roll over. As you can imagine, that's pretty important. That would then hopefully over time increase the amount of Satoshis that I've got in value worth, therefore making more money. And I know I fucking just lost most of you watching this video because you don't quite understand how creating wealth should be all in Bitcoin, in my opinion. Obviously, if Bitcoin becomes expensive and stupid prices, I will be taking some money off the table and putting it elsewhere, which brings me onto the bear market plan. Diversify. Div into other markets. Simple. Diversify. There may be business interests that I may want to pursue. There may be other things I want to do. So for me, I'm already kind of set with stocks and shares ISA. Stocks and shares ISA. If this makes no sense, again, join Patreon. You'll learn all about this shit. Now, for me, dividend stocks. Cool. Why not? Bitcoin miners is a possibility, but as well, index funds. Just watch what happens to them. They grow. It's mental when you look at it, right? So look at other markets and look at other plans. Moving forward though, right, realistically, I will always hold some Bitcoin. Always. But I will only manage that until, again, the total 3/BTC bottoms in the future, right? So simple as that. Hold the Bitcoin, buy altcoins at the right time. I've openly admit I made a lot of mistakes this cycle. My first mistake was buying more altcoins in the FTX crash instead of buying Bitcoin. I should have bought more Bitcoin. I bought some Bitcoin. I bought more altcoins as well. That did not work out. Openly admit that. And if any YouTuber out there or content creator, whatever, right, is coming out with perfect, like, oh, I predicted this, I predicted that. It's all bollocks. Literally, no one is right. No one knows what the market's doing. That's why we're all here. That's why we're all speculating. Some people are better than others. At the end of the day, it's all about surviving. And again, we talk about it. The bear market, survival. Because, funny enough, there will be a time, hopefully fingers crossed, when the market will go up so much in the longevity, future, whatever, people will be calling, there will never be a bear market, never, super cycle, ooh. There will be. There always is. There's always a bear market, right? So you've got to be very, very mindful of it. So for me, the bear market is simple. Diversify into other markets, have a stocks and shares ISA, put money into dividend stocks and just sit on them, index funds, sit on them, distribute the wealth, whatever. Other markets as well you can go into, up to you. I'm not a gold investor. I'm not a silver investor. I probably won't buy bricks and mortar. I will probably just do that. I will eventually at some point return to miners / crypto related stocks if they're at the bottom, if they're at the lows again. And we are still running, maybe this isn't it, but maybe what I coulda, shoulda, woulda, are on the 4-year or whatever cycle narrative we're on. If we are following liquidity cycles, it might be quite fun. But the overall aim for me in the bear market is to survive. I will obviously still be doing content, but I may be probably doing this, trading more. So that's kind of the plan. And when we talk about it, I would rather be more top heavy in Bitcoin and trade altcoins with leverage and have a bit of fun and enjoy the market and grow my USD and then do whatever I want with it, versus buy and hold and hope for the better. And the wealth has to be created some way. And the best way to create it is by trading the market, if you know what you're doing, right? So anyways, that is kind of me done waffling about a bit today. That gives you everything what I'm doing. In terms of the longevity, as I say, I would rather trade. I would rather hold more Bitcoin versus altcoins and hopefully sell when certain charts do a certain thing. When we talk about it, this is obviously Polkadot. It's not looking good, bro. Yeah, sold the bottom. I don't really care. I already made my money last cycle, luckily. You're probably asking, why is this chart so important? The total 3/BTC, right? I've said it before. When you think about the EMAs crossing over on the EMA and the structure levels here, the time to kind of be out of altcoins is kind of around here. When this is high, it indicates that the value of your altcoins are worth more than BTC at the present moment. We obviously melted into this consolidation. I have been quite aggressively buying a few other altcoins around this point, and we go back to that plan. When you think about Stacks, NIA, and ICP, or essentially Stacks and ICP, their market cap's a lot lower. And realistically, they could go up a lot more versus some of the other assets, right? When we start talking about the Satoshi pairs, they're important. So when this starts going up, you're going to start noticing. And we've had these little shoots to the upside, and they did do well. When we talk about future potential gains here, as I've said, accumulation of stacks is pretty important, but this could really run. If this untaps a lot of potential and becomes like a 30, 40, $50 billion asset because Bitcoin's done well and everyone's building on it now, versus the back, the back end, no one did. It was all speculative around here. That could be important. Same with NIA. This could go much, much, much higher. Again, ICP has had the worst launch and a lot of ugly corruption based off other things that didn't do very well, could gain you a lot of BTC from these lows. It's a huge risk, but you may well do very, very well with it. Anyways,